Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Laura Evans. I'm a 4th grade math and science teacher in the state of Florida. Today's video topic is going to be all about teacher burnout. I got this video idea from a podcast that I was listening to by Michelle Emerson and Bridget Spackman, and they were talking about the last 2 episodes of their podcast was about teacher burnout, and they're saying how they have felt burnt out at different times in their careers, and they shared their stories. And then they went into another episode where they were talking about the different aspects of teacher burnout and how it's not talked about very frequently. So I figured for the next couple episodes on my channel, I would talk about my teacher burnout story. I'm gonna have a guest on my podcast on my YouTube channel next week. Very special guest who is also a teacher, talking about his teacher burnout and his thoughts on it. So stay tuned for those. Definitely subscribe so you don't miss any future videos on this, and let's just go ahead and get into the video. So I'm in my classroom. Obviously today is a teacher work day for the morning, and then we have professional development in the afternoon, so I have a little time to film. This morning I got here a little bit earlier than most people, so filming in my classroom for once, exciting. So to start off the video, I just want to reference the podcast a little bit that I listened to. They talked about how, or at least Michelle talked about how her teacher burnout was like a roller coaster. Like, it was a good year, a bad year, good year, bad year. Mine was kind of similar to that. So I'm going to kind of start at the beginning and talk about all the different aspects that led me up to the point where I actually quit one of my teaching positions. You guys know I left a school a couple years ago, or like a year and a half ago now, because of teacher burnout and other aspects. So I'm going to kind of like lead us up to that, and then I'm going to talk about what has happened afterwards, because stuff has happened afterwards as well. So let's get to it. So if you guys know my story, then you know that I started teaching by subbing. I was in grad school, and at the time I had interviewed for full-time teaching positions, but I was told by multiple schools that it would be very hard to start your first year teaching when you are in grad school at the same time. So basically I was like rejected in a kind way by them by saying it's because you're in grad school, not because we don't want to hire you, which was defeating in a way. But you know, I had no clue at the time, but like looking back on it now, I know. And so I was just subbing day to day in that spring when I had started grad school. The following year I was trying to get that full-time position, didn't get one, but I did end up getting a long-term maternity leave position, which I've told the story before. A lady was gone for 6 months on maternity leave, and so I basically took over her classroom, and it was pretty much my classroom. She did have her classroom set up already because I took it over in like the third week of school. And it was a great time. It was a first grade classroom. I really enjoyed it. You know, I was just excited to be there. And I had been working with older kids in all of my student teaching, so being with the younger kids was kind of exciting for me. It was something new. You know, your first year, you're excited. Everything is like new, and like you have all this energy. So I was really excited. But I did spend a lot of time at the school. The school I was at gave me a code so I could get in like after hours if I like forgot something, or like if I wanted to go work in the classroom, because I obviously needed that extra time, being I didn't have that time for teacher planning and all that, whatever. So basically I could get into the school whenever I wanted. I had full access. So I would go in Saturdays, Sundays. I would spend 5-6 hours there Saturday and Sunday morning working. So I was working 7 days a week. And at the time it didn't bug me. I really enjoyed it. I loved going to the school when the kids weren't there and just like getting all these little things done that I wanted to get done. My to-do lists were always so long throughout the week, so whatever I didn't get done throughout the week, I would come over the weekends. So like, while it wasn't burning me out at that time, like looking back on it, over so much time of me doing that, it becomes exhausting. I spent so much time at school, it like became my life. It consumed me. Then the following year I got hired full-time at that school to teach 4th grade, which you guys know. I still was very excited because this was my real classroom. This was my classroom. I could set it up the way I wanted. I could do all the things that I wanted. It was my room, not the other lady's room. So I, again, spent so much time, like I spent 2-3 weeks of my summer setting up my classroom so it was perfect the way I wanted it. I would write such detailed lesson plans the first like few months of school. Like my lesson plans were 3-4 pages long for each day. Like I just wanted everything to be perfect. And that's who I am, and it definitely took a toll on me. I still would go in on weekends. I wouldn't go every day on the weekends, but I would go usually Saturday or Sunday. I would pick a day and I would go in and get everything done. I wouldn't go every weekend, but most weekends I would go. So it was exhausting spending them out that much time that I did. So like one of the things that I would say, obviously you guys can get the gist of it here, is those first few years, my burnout was I just spent so much time at the school that all I did was think about school. How can I make things better? You know, it was exhausting, but like I still had that like new teacher excitement. So it didn't really affect me in that moment, but looking back on it, it affected me. That first year in 4th grade, my class, I didn't really have too many like major behavior issues. I had like some mild behaviors, but like nothing major. My kids were pretty good academically. I had a few low kids, but like most of them were middle of the row and like higher kids. So like I felt like I was doing really well, and like that class was probably given to me handpicked because of me being a first year teacher, which was good because it gave me that sense of like accomplishment and like sense of like I'm actually teaching them and like they're learning. So it was good to have that class, but they definitely gave me an easier class that year. I will say though, I did have my first touch of like parent issues that year. I had some parents who were accusing me of things that were not great. I had a parent call me basically racist because I gave them a Native American project and there were some things in it that she didn't like, but it wasn't my project. It was like the 4th grade project, but because I was her kid's teacher, she took it out on me. And I had another parent situation where the parent was like contacting me at all hours of the night, like expecting me to do all these things, and me being a first year teacher and me wanting to be everything perfect, I'm sitting there contacting her back, and it got to the point where I was like, I can't anymore. She was mad because I wasn't answering her back, so they moved the kid out of my classroom. So like there was all these like little situations that like now in the year that I'm in, I feel like I could have handled it a little bit better, but that first year it was like, oh my goodness. So that was like my first little taste of parents parents having a problem. And then going into the next year, I had a group. I had, let's just say I knew some of the kids' names by just looking at the roster. When the first day they handed me the roster, I knew some of the kids that I was gonna have because of hearing the years before, hearing their names on the intercom and hearing their names from other teachers, just like venting and letting out frustration, you know, which is healthy. But so I knew several of my kids coming in, and I knew their behaviors coming in, and I had my fingers crossed going into that school year that for some reason that summer, hopefully they grew up, they matured. That was not the case. I had a rough year. I still had that little bit of excitement because my focus that year was going to be math. And I'll go more into that in a second, but I'm going to talk about behaviors first with the kids. Like I said, I still had that excitement. So I was like, I'm gonna make this work, but I was trying everything in my power to make it work. So again, exhausting myself, again, making myself very tired. So I had one student who would have major temper tantrums. He would run out of my room screaming on the top of his lungs. I remember the first time it happened was in the cafeteria. He screamed, the whole cafeteria went silent and looked at him like it was like one of those moments where it was like everyone like slow turns their head, and like he just ran out. That happened at least 3-4 times a week. By the end of the year, you know, I got him to where the point where he wasn't doing that anymore, but it took time, it took research, it took effort, it took a lot of my energy. Hi guys, so I wanted to add in here another little part that I thought of. Another issue that I didn't even mention was the fact that I was doing all these extra jobs that aren't my jobs. Like I was trying to basically be this kid's therapist in a way. Like I was researching coping mechanisms and trying to teach him coping mechanisms. And like, while yes, teachers are like expected to help these kids grow as human beings overall, like I was nowhere near qualified to be teaching this kid coping mechanisms. I am not a guidance counselor. I'm not a therapist. And so like I was taking on those extra roles as a teacher that I shouldn't have been. And I was putting all that extra effort in there. So I just wanted to mention that as well, because I didn't mention I had another student who was very quick to fight people. So he would fight kids anytime they mentioned anything about his mom. He was very protective over his mom. So he you know, he'd get frustrated and he would take it out on the kids physically. I had another student who caused over $1,000 worth of vandalism in the school, and the parent basically blamed me for it, basically said I was the cause of it. I had, and then of course the regular behaviors that you have in the classroom, gossiping, you know, other kids beating each other up randomly, kids just being mean. I had a crew that year. I had a group. I had a group of kids. So that was so mentally draining on me because that was my real first like bad class, you know, and that was exhausting. I'm gonna pause real quick. That year was totally exhausting just on behaviors alone. I felt mentally drained, and I remember I filmed a lot that year. I filmed a lot of vlogs that year, and I remember that was the year that I decided to move because of I was just so sick of the behaviors that were in that classroom and like things that were going on in that school, that I was like, I can't take it. And I had a friend who had moved that used to work at that school, and she was like, it's not like that everywhere. Like you need to get out of that school. And so I had made that choice to leave and move. And I remember I filmed it all. It's all on my channel. You guys can go back and watch it. I'll link some of those videos down below if you guys want to check out how I was feeling that year. But I definitely was exhausted just on behaviors alone. So going back to that math that I mentioned, that the spring of my first year in 4th grade, I had come across a flipped classroom method, and so I decided the following year my focus was going to be math, and I was going to do a flipped classroom because I thought that would help me solve my problem of spending so much time in whole group and not having any time for practice in small group. So I would film a video every single day, edit it, post it for the kids to watch for homework that night, and so that took time in itself. I also spent time creating my small group plans. I would have to plan out 4 or 5 small groups a day. I would spend time prepping all of my games for the kids to use in centers. I was spending time doing all these extra things I didn't do my first year, and I really focused on that math. So that was draining in itself as well because I was trying to do this thing like all at once, where I feel like I should have broke it into chunks and done it a little by little, but I didn't because that's me and I'm all or nothing. So that was exhausting that year doing that flipped classroom, and I loved it, and I wish I could have kept doing flipped classroom, but I'll get to that in a moment as well, why I can't do that anymore. Okay, so I can't do flipped classroom anymore because of the school that I'm at. The kids just don't have any, let's just say they don't have any motivation or work ethic to get that homework done. So if I were to do that teaching method, most of the kids wouldn't put in the effort to watch the videos. Well, most likely I would assume that's the case because they have yet to try a lot of my homework. Like majority of the days I have half the kids out turning homework. So I would just be afraid that they wouldn't actually watch it, and then it would be a waste of my time because only half the kids would be watching my instruction and I would have to reteach it anyways. So that's just why I can't do flipped classroom anymore. I don't think I mentioned it later in the video, so I just wanted to add it in here. So but honestly it was great doing that, but it was tiring. Again, that year I had parent issues as well. Like I mentioned, that child who vandalized a classroom, over $1,000 worth of damage. That parent blamed me for everything. I had other parents just with other issues with me for various things. You know, when you're a new teacher, parents just question you on everything, so that's exhausting. We also had 3 new teachers on our team that year, so that was exhausting as well, just trying to get them like on the same page, answering their questions and stuff. Like, nothing against them, they're great people, but you know, just having like new people at the school is hard because you're trying to teach them the way you do things at your school, so there's like a lot of time taken away from you because you're answering questions and stuff, but that's fine, you know, that's teaching. So all of this is leading me up to the point where I left Tallahassee and I moved down to South Florida because I was so burnt out on everything that was happening at that school. I was like, I need to move. So I moved. I went to that school that I quit from. You guys can go back and watch that whole video where it said I quit my job teaching. I'll link it for you guys down below to talk more about it, but I'll just give a general gist. Basically at that school I had crazy parents who were threatening to put me on the news. I had parents coming in and yelling at me, like literally like fingers in my face yelling at me, and I seeked out support and I didn't get any support from administration. I literally had administration in a meeting with me where a parent was like yelling at my face like this, and the administrator just sat there and smiled, and then at the end basically said that her and I were going to sit down together and come up with solutions to these issues. So basically took the parent's side and let the parent yell at me. So their solution to that problem was to move me to another grade level. So I got moved to kindergarten, where I had a child who would bite me. I had a child who would throw things at other kids, would run out of the room, no exaggeration, 6 or 7 times a day, not exaggerating, would scream on the top of his lungs for like 30 minutes. I'm sitting there trying to teach over him screaming. It was bad. And on top of it, I had started off in 2nd grade and then they moved me to kindergarten, and I had never taught kindergarten before. So, you know, just shifting all of that, starting in a 2nd grade classroom. So already moving from 4th to 2nd grade was exhausting in itself, trying to learn that curriculum where people were not helpful. My coworkers did not teach me things. When I'd ask questions, they'd be like, oh yeah, I'll answer that tomorrow. I have to go pick up my kids, or I have to go do this, and then I'd ask them the next day and they're like, oh, sorry, I'm busy. So I never got any help from them. And then when all that parent drama and kids stuff happened and they moved me to kinder, I had to completely shift in a matter of 2 days. They gave me 2 days to move everything out of my classroom and get my stuff set up, and then the kids came in. And basically I had to just start teaching kindergarten, and I had no clue how to teach kindergarten. I was completely lost. It was not good. I was definitely feeling defeated at that point. On top of the behavior kid, I felt like I had no time in the world to figure anything out. It was just not good. And I was so used to being able to go in on the weekends and get those things done at like my old school. And this school, I couldn't do that. Like, I couldn't go in on the weekends and get things done, and I couldn't stay late because they were very strict on you had to leave at a certain time and blah, 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 whatever. So like, I felt like I was so defeated at that school. I had no support from administration, coworkers, no support from parents. I had one teacher there, one teacher who would help me when I moved to kindergarten, but she was also kind of new. I think she was in her like 6th or 7th year teaching, but she was new to the school as well. So like, you know, she could tell that I was totally drowning, and like I've talked to her about it, and she was like, yeah, you're not a kindergarten teacher, and I know that, but it is what it is. So I got to the point where I had to quit, because I was like, if I don't quit, like I'm gonna lose it. Like I'm gonna completely just like get fired, because they're not loving anything I'm doing, and I'm just getting frustrated and starting to speak out about it. So I left the school, and then which was good for me to have that break. Eventually I started teaching online and doing like VIP Good and Dada ABC, all of those like online ESOL programs where you teach kids over in China English. So like that was good to have like a little teaching back into my life after I had that like month or two break. But I pretty much only did it because I needed money. I didn't want to do it. You guys know that I had that offer from a major airline. I was going to be a flight attendant, and then I didn't do it because of obviously COVID. They couldn't hire anyone on and whatever. So I didn't want to go back to teaching, but I did. And then eventually, after months of doing that, I was like, you know what? I need to go back into the classroom. This is not giving me enough money from just these online ESOL programs. I was also having to Uber Eats, so like that was exhausting in itself as well. Getting up at 4 in the morning to teach classes, and then Uber Eats driving at lunch, and then Uber Eats driving at dinner, and then basically going to sleep so I could get up at 4 a.m. again the next morning. Like it was not good. And I wasn't getting enough money. I didn't have benefits, anything like that. So leading up to this last year, I got hired on at the school I'm at now. It was interesting because I know everyone had been teaching online the spring before, like regular kids online, and I had been teaching the ESOL online. So like I kind of did the same thing as somewhere I was teaching online, but coming in and having 4 full classes of math online was very challenging. But I made it work, and like last year was exhausting in a way of like I was new, and like, you know, you felt like you were like never in balance, and like you're just trying to figure things out. Everything's new. I feel like I was a first year teacher again, in the sense, not with the math. I felt like I was comfortable with the math, but more in the sense of like figuring out the online world and all that. And everyone has felt like that. So that was burning me out in a sense as well. And then we had hybrid kids coming in. The group I had last year was very challenging. I had a couple students in particular that really pushed my buttons. Parents that pushed my buttons last year as well. But overall, I had a good team. I had good administration last year, and they kept me sane, kept me going throughout the school year. Leading me into this year, I am team leader this year. I have students who have a lot of accommodations, a lot of modifications. I have a lot of students who get pulled out for resource classes and extra services. So you can kind of guess the group of class that I have. I have a lot of students with major behavior issues again, and it would be one thing if I had a supportive team, but I don't this year, unfortunately. I have 2 people on my team who I feel like they are trying to help me, but you know, one of them is my partner teacher, and she is dealing with the same kids that I am, so she feels frustrated as well. And then the other one, she has a dream of a class, so she doesn't quite understand. And I know she's been teaching for years, so she's had classes like I've had before, you know, but so those 2, I feel like they're supportive in a way. But the other 3, I don't feel like I can go to them to ask them for help. I don't feel comfortable going to them at all, honestly. At this point, I tried, and I don't want to go into too much detail because like I'm not trying to share their lives and whatnot, but it's not a cohesive team, and it's very, very challenging being team leader on a team where people don't get along. I do have a supportive administration still. They're still supportive. But, you know, this year is just challenging with everyone being back in the building, and some of these people haven't been to school since, you know, before COVID. So it's been a crazy year, and I'm pretty frustrated at this point with behaviors, with the lack of learning that is going on in my classroom. I've just gotten to the point where I feel pretty much exhausted, and I feel defeated. I feel like my kids haven't learned a single thing this year, and that's frustrating. So, you know, I went to administration, I've asked them for support, and they're giving me support, but there's only so much they can do. You know, it's the group of kids that I have, and they're giving me ideas. The couple people on my team are giving me ideas. My mentor's giving me ideas. So we're trying to make it work, but I definitely feel exhausted, for sure. So that's all the teacher burnout aspects. So just to summarize, because I know this video has been very long, spending so much time in my classroom consumed me at first. So like all those extra hours is consuming. Parent issues, I will label it as that. Parent issues is just really defeating and hard and frustrated to deal with. Kids' behaviors going on right now. I forgot to mention, one year I had a parent accuse me of calling her kid a liar, and then the kid actually was a liar, and I never called the kid a liar, but he actually was lying. So just to throw that mini story in there, I may have shared that before, but if you want to hear the full story, let me know down below. I'll tell you guys the whole, maybe we'll have a story time. Maybe I should start doing story times on my channel. Okay, back to summary. Okay, so extra time, parents, behaviors, lack of learning, lack of support from coworkers, the lack of support from administration, as well as, you know, I just feel like I'm not being compensated. I'm not being appreciated by the kids. I'm not being appreciated by the parents. Like, it's just exhausting. And being the person that I am, I try to fix these problems because I'm a problem solver. That's who I am. And I just can't solve these ones. I can't figure it out. So I don't know, that's kind of my story with teacher burnout. I know it was very chatty, just kind of everything that's led me to the point of where I just feel defeated. I feel tired, and I feel like I need a break. But yeah, that's pretty much my story. I can definitely go into some more details if you guys have specific questions about anything that I've mentioned, but next week's video I'm going to be, like I said, discussing teacher burnout, and have that special guest on and talking about his teacher burnout experience. So if you guys are definitely interested in hearing his story, definitely subscribe so you don't miss that video. As well as if you guys have anything that you're related to, any of your teacher burnout stories, definitely leave them down below because I definitely want to hear them. I would love to shout them out. And yeah, go ahead and give this video a like if you related to anything in here, if you felt the same things as me, because, you know, we gotta teachers support teachers. Instead of teachers pay teachers, it's teachers support teachers. All right, I'll catch you guys real soon. Bye.